Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Fast Money Football. I'm your host, Albert Vartanian, joined by James Sharman. And James, I was on a heater and you were talking me up pretty big. I got ahead of myself. And what happens when you do that? You shit the bed. 1 for 2 this weekend when it came to my betting in attack and defend. One of those losses being Tottenham. I had the -1 to win by at least 2 goals against Brighton. But Brighton again, what the hell's going on? They play the whole season. They can't score goals. They struggle offensively, but now when it comes to ruining everyone else's season, they get better.
They're like the worst team to bet on because they might be the streakiest team in the Premier League. It's crazy, right? I mean, entering, after this weekend, they're unbeaten in 3 games, right? 2 wins in that stretch. Prior to that, they had 6 straight losses. Before that, 1 loss in 7 games. I just never know what to expect from this team, but that's when you get a team that's really good defensively but doesn't score many goals. They are a little bit streaky, and then when they do find a bit of confidence up front, they'll get some good scalps. So, yeah, I know. It's always a tough one to bet on. They always have been, and I really like this team. They play such a lovely style of football, even if they're not scoring that many goals. But they're a team, I don't know how you think about Brighton, but they're a team that it's like enjoy them while you can, because at some point, Graham Potter's going to leave and he's going to go to that next step up, whatever that's going to be. And at that point, I really wonder and worry a little bit about Brighton and who's going to come in and replace him, because he's done a terrific job there. Fantastic, but there isn't that much money. And can they sustain this? Will there be a yo-yo club, moving forward? It's interesting.
Speaking about what not to expect or not knowing what to expect, the top 4 race, James. Spurs, Arsenal, West Ham all drop points. United, horrible performance, but thankfully Cristiano Ronaldo scored a hat-trick for them to beat Norwich, which was one of the bets that I hit, Norwich +2. They actually looked pretty good value. They were down 2-0 at Old Trafford and come back to tie it, and then Ronaldo scores a free kick. That was pretty much Tim Krul's fault. He even looked surprised. Ronaldo looked surprised that he scored that goal. But as of right now, let me hit you with the numbers here. To finish in the top 4, Tottenham -200, Arsenal +225, United +700, West Ham +8,000. Where do you put your money? Do you just stay away from this completely?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're all so inconsistent, right? I mean, what an opportunity for all these teams, and Spurs blow at the start of the weekend, right? And what a weekend it was for United in the end. So looking at those odds, and I'm not going to be drawn in by Manchester United, but a +700. You're looking at what this team can do if they're all playing well. But you're right, they weren't great in the weekend either. They were really poor, and just because of Ronaldo's brilliance, did they find a way to get 3 points when they didn't deserve it at all? It wasn't a great performance. And even David De Gea again. I love David De Gea, by the way. He's so outspoken now.
Another good one, James. Another good game for him.
He's great, right? He's great. But post-match, he goes, yeah, we weren't very good. We're terrible again. It's not good enough. We won the game, but he knows the truth. When they clear out that team this summer, they have to find a way to keep him, because he's so great. But yeah, so looking at the run-ins for these teams, you look at United's run-in, right? There isn't one easy run-in for any of these teams. United play, of course, Liverpool this week, in fact, tomorrow. They're then at Arsenal. We'll get to Arsenal in a little bit. But then they're hosting Chelsea. You got Brentford coming up, Brighton, we just discussed, Palace, really good team. So that's not an easy run-in. You look at Arsenal's run-in right now. It's not easy. You have Chelsea, this Wednesday. You got United, as I mentioned before. Then it's at West Ham. Good team. Leeds are playing much better. Then it's the derby against Spurs. And then you got Newcastle, right? And the end of the season hosting Everton. So not easy. Spurs running also, not easy. Okay, you have Brentford coming up. Brentford, your boys, I mean, they're almost unbeatable these days. You're then hosting Leicester. Then it's Liverpool. Watch out. Then it's, as I mentioned, the North London derby. You've got Burnley and Norwich to round out the season. So there aren't any easy run-ins here. I'd rule out West Ham at this point. I don't know about you. I think they're just too far back. And, of course, they also have played one more game, I believe, as well. So I think West Ham's out of the conversation, especially as they are still in Europe and doing really well there, with a huge semi-final against Eintracht Frankfurt. So it's between United, Arsenal, and Spurs. I think Chelsea will be just fine. They got enough of an edge there on the rest. But man, would I want to bet on this? Like I said, I'm just not going United, despite it being +700. It's tempting. I think I'm going Arsenal still, believe it or not.
Wow.
And that's only because they played one less game. That's the
Yeah.
only reason. Spurs were playing great, as we discussed, right? Yeah, they found themselves, Albert. They're back.
Yeah.
And then this weekend happened. So,
You,
it's tough,
you,
man.
you can't lay the 200 on Tottenham to finish in the top four. Plus, it's a plus money better. Just completely stay away. Back to West Ham. But yeah, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, plus the Europa League semifinals. And to be honest, they probably should have lost that game to Burnley on the weekend if Maxwell Cornet decided to hit the back of the net instead of taking away the ball from Jay Rodriguez. I was thinking about that. I'm like, I hate when players fight over who's going to take the penalty because they should know. But then I remembered Chris Wood was their penalty taker. So this is the first one since he's taken one. It's not like, I think that was Burnley's first of the season. So I can understand why Cornet decided to take the ball away. And there's a little bit of a jousting battle there. But nevertheless,
Yeah.
yes, Chelsea probably should finish in the top four. Let's talk about the FA Cup. Final has been set. It's Chelsea against Liverpool. Another final between these two teams. Thomas Tuchel seems to just get these teams to finals every single time. If you look at his resume since January, James, 2021 FA Cup final, 2021 Champions League final, Super Cup final, Club World Cup final, League Cup final, and now another FA Cup final. He has to go down as one of the best managers, maybe in Chelsea history.
Oh man, he's getting there. I mean, he's only been
getting
there
there.
a couple of years, right? But I mean, you're right. I mean, you can't dispute his record and what
It's
he
just
did
because of the amount of time that he's done these things.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think for me, you need longevity to really become, in that conversation, the best ever. I mean, listen, Jose Mourinho had a pretty good stint there, right? Even Conte comes in, wins trophies, but he wasn't there very long. I like longevity as well.
Right.
But he's done an incredible job there. And when he took over from Frank Lampard, it seems a long time ago now, but it wasn't. They were in disarray, and straight away he turned it around. And what he's done this year, given all the off-the-field distractions with Roman Abramovich selling the club and all that nonsense, it is amazing how he's got this team playing back, I think, to their best or close to their best. It's going to be a great FA Cup final. If only we had some recent history to draw from, right? Oh, yeah, the Carabao Cup final, that 0-0, which was one of the best 0-0s we've ever seen, and Liverpool winning on penalties. So it's going to be tight. Liverpool have the edge there, I think. They are the team in form at the moment. They're showing that. But, man, it's going to be a real tight game, low-scoring game once again. And if Chelsea can manage it and get an FA Cup to the trophy cabinet, I mean, my word, okay, if they win that, then he's definitely up there. But give me another couple more years of this kind of form, and then, yeah, let's start comparing him to Jose Mourinho.
Third straight FA Cup final for Chelsea. They lost to Leicester and Arsenal. So this is one that they really want. And really the only thing that they're playing for, like you said, they're going to finish comfortably in the top four. FA Cup final is probably all eggs in that basket. This was a good response for them, coming off, a big, emotionally and I think a physically draining Real Madrid game in the Champions League. They had a couple of blips, losing to Brentford as well. Is Chelsea, quote unquote, back after, a couple of little blips in the radar here?
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're back to where they were at their top form, earlier this season, but they're definitely getting there. Questions are being answered for sure. Mason Mount's playing the best football of his life right now. There's still issues, off the field with Romelu Lukaku. Tuchel's just pulling no straws there. He's saying, listen, the reason he's not in the team is because he's simply not fit enough, which is incredible to me. And I mean, how can a guy not be fit enough at this point in the season? Yeah. And obviously Kai Havertz is playing fantastic football right now. Timo Werner's playing really well again. But I mean, there's obviously some issues off the field there with the personnel. But listen, I mean, Palace were good, I thought, in that game. Palace is just a good team, simple as that. So Chelsea weren't all-encompassing, all-dominant at all in that match, but they were the better team. They deserve to go on. And like I said, they're a tournament side right now. So I'm not sure they're at the back to where they were, but they're still a very good team and certainly good for third place and maybe a trophy.
I can't help but think how that game would have played if Conor Gallagher was able to play against his
exactly.
former club, or his current club, actually, in Chelsea. Let's talk about the other FA Cup semifinal. I had the draw. Didn't happen. This was very one-sided. The scoreline definitely doesn't reflect that. Liverpool 3, Manchester City 2. Liverpool booked their first FA Cup final under Jurgen Klopp. Surprisingly, the last time, James, 2012 against Chelsea, they lost. The only remaining player from that team, Jordan Henderson. So he's been around for a while. I'm sure he wants that FA Cup as well. I want to talk about, the title race. Do you think that result will impact it at all?
Yeah, it certainly gives Liverpool some motivation and some encouragement. that they, out of this crazy patch where they played City a couple of times, you know, they didn't lose either game. They won one match. So it helps there. But again, it comes down to the run-ins, right? As simple as that. And again, there's not an easy one. City still have the easier run-in, just about, right? So City still, where is it here? They are playing, they're playing against Brighton on Wednesday. Again, we've seen how good Brighton can be, but they're hosting Brighton. They then host Watford. There's 3 points. You got a Champions League semi-final thrown in there against Real Madrid. Leeds, Newcastle, by which point they should be safe. What are they fighting for? West Ham, and then Villa to end the season. So you can see they're good teams they're playing there. You can see points being dropped, but really it's not that challenging a run-in, whereas Liverpool's a much more difficult run-in. They have, bear with me here, where is it? So obviously coming up this week against Manchester United, which still in your brain, you're thinking, man, that's still the biggest game of the season. No, but it's not really, is it? Not the way United are playing. It's at Anfield as well. But then it's the Merseyside derby against Everton, again at Anfield. Again, Everton not very good, but derby's a derby. You have Newcastle in there, I mentioned there. You got a Champions League semi-final against Villarreal thrown in there. Spurs, again, at Anfield, thankfully for Liverpool, but Spurs, you know, despite what happened this weekend, they're obviously a real force. Villa to round out the season along with Wolves. So, again, it's a tough schedule. I'd say it's harder. It's harder. Plus the FA Cup, right, on May 14th, thrown in there. It's a lot of games. So as much as I think Liverpool are feeling good about themselves, and that win this weekend really probably makes them really believe, if there are any doubts that they can't be the best team in England, they've now been erased. They believe they're the best team in England. There's still a good opportunity to drop points as well the next few games. So I don't think it means much, Albert, honestly. I mean, it's going to go down to the wire, as simple as that. And it could be a surprise result, a draw here or a draw there, that decides this thing.
Yeah, when you look at the FA Cup final odds, they're already out. Chelsea, the underdog, plus 205 against Liverpool, plus 105. The draw is plus 240. If I'm looking at that, I'm probably hitting the draw once again, because these two teams are very – I mean, when these two teams when two top teams go against each other, and we say this week in and week out, they seem to cancel each other out. I think, you know, the game against Manchester City was a bit different. City, they were coming off, you know, I mentioned it that, you know, the last time they played Atletico Madrid, they came off that game, the first leg, and played Liverpool and looked very good. This time, not so much. I think that really took a lot out of them. It really did. And I think Liverpool's depth has really helped them this season. I think it showed in that last game that Liverpool is just a bit more deep than Manchester City are at the moment. And now they're going to face a Chelsea team that this is all they have to play for in this FA Cup final. It's going to be a close one once again. And I think for Liverpool, obviously, you know, they want to, the quadruple is still on. So they're going to want to go there and try and actually win this thing.
It's a really good point that you mentioned about the depth, saying that Liverpool's depth looked better. And I mean, who'd have thought that, right? Even 6 months ago, when the big issue between these two teams was starting 11s, they're you know, nose to nose, but City's depth is far superior. But this one, it just wasn't. When City lose Kevin De Bruyne and Kyle Walker, they do lose something, right? And I think you really saw that. And that being said, I think Pep just brought in one sub, right? Riyad Mahrez came in to the game on the weekend, just the one he used. So he didn't have much faith in his bench. So the bench, I mean, Ilkay Gundogan's world class. Obviously, De Bruyne was on the bench, you know, Rodri, but Liam Delap and Romeo Lavia, right? These are academy players.
Yeah.
Whereas Liverpool brought on Bobby Firmino and Jordan Henderson, Curtis Jones, and Diego Jota. So, yeah, I think the depth for Liverpool finally now, this is the best group of players that club's ever had. And I think maybe if you go squad to squad, City's still the edge when everyone's healthy, just about, but it's really close. But yeah, I'm with you regarding the FA Cup final here. And sorry, I got distracted there with City, but it's going to be dead close. And they cancel each other out in the right ways. It's not like they are two boring teams who just defend and are very wary of each other. They'll attack both these teams. And I think it's going to really go down to it's an extra time, maybe penalties, which I don't really want to see again. I'd rather see a definitive result for either team. But man, it's going to be a big occasion. And the FA Cup, it's kind of grown again, right? You know, after a few years of lacking something, it seems to have really found its place once again. And this is going to be a great weekend for football in England on May 14th.
Yeah, it comes down, as you mentioned, May 14th. And the final for Liverpool comes following the second leg of the Champions League semi-final, then home to Spurs and a trip to Villa. For Chelsea, it's sandwiched in between a Leeds and Leicester fixture. And like we keep mentioning, there's nothing to play for really for Chelsea in the Premier League. I mean, a couple more points and they're going to be completely safe inside the top 3, not even the top 4. So it's going to be very difficult for Liverpool to manage all of these fixtures. But I mean, it's not just them. It's a lot of teams that are going through this. But when you're trying to win every single title, these things are going to happen. And it would be fantastic to see if a team can actually win 4 of them. I know, James, you don't want to say it because
the quadruple. Yeah, let's not talk about that. But you know what? It is being discussed, though.
It really
is. Players
are
are being asked about it now. I saw a post-match on the weekend. They asked about the quadruple to Sadio Mane. He kind of just laughs it off, right? But it's in their heads. There's no doubt about it. And listen, they might just end up with the Carabao Cup this year, right? Second place, Carabao Cup, still a pretty good season for most clubs, right? But coming so close to a quadruple. I mean, if they get the treble, is that going to be a disappointment?
No, if they get 2, right, it wouldn't be a disappointment. Right.
But what two? What two is the question. The Carabao Cup's nice and all, but it's a little bit of, just to throw it in there. They need to have one of the major ones. They need the Premier League or the Champions League. The FA Cup would be great, but I tell you, that club, if they finish this year with the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, of course they'll be happy to have more trophies, the FA Cup especially, but they want one of those other 2. That's what they want and what they need.
They deserve to win the Premier League in front of their fans. I always thought that, especially in that season. I'm like, man, it just didn't feel. I mean, it was great. It was fantastic. I'm sure you were very happy as a Liverpool fan, and many other Liverpool fans were happy. But to have, a full Anfield with the team going around the pitch with the Premier League trophy would be fantastic to see. And what a fantastic run we have to the end of the season and the end to the European season. But it continues, and it continues tomorrow quickly for Liverpool and Manchester United, James. As we mentioned, they face each other. I believe it's at Anfield. How do you see this one playing out? I based on what we've seen from Manchester United, I just really don't expect them to be in the game. But again, this is a massive rivalry.
Yeah, it's still massive. It's still, if you take away the positions on the table and all the noise around the teams, it's still the biggest game for each of these clubs of the season. That's traditionally how it is, how a lot of the fans still see it. But listen, last time they played 5-0 Liverpool, remember that? And that was kind of the moment when most people realized, okay, United's got some big, big issues here. And Ronaldo was not the solution after all, as some of us guessed to begin with. But, that was an embarrassment for United. They were absolutely pathetic that day. So they'll be thinking about that, I'm sure. But it's just different class, right, between these sides. It really is. Let's not overthink this one. Liverpool should take this one pretty handily. You never rule out a team with Ronaldo because he can step up and do what he did on the weekend. But, I can't see it happening. I really can't. They won't be down for this one, Liverpool, even though it's, so many games back to back and they're going to be getting a little bit tired now. They'll be using their squad. But, they'll be up for this one for sure. And I think 3 points are pretty much in the bag.
Yeah, Liverpool minus 250 in that game. The draw is plus 425. United plus 550. United hasn't won at Anfield in their last 6. It's going to be very difficult for them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The next game, which is another big one, Chelsea, Arsenal. And based on what we're seeing from Arsenal, one of the youngest teams, maybe the youngest team in the Premier League at the moment. And that can probably be their biggest issue, I think. And Arteta has kind of alluded to that, is that we got to remember how young these players are, but we're still going through a big moment and they need to come through the other side.
Yeah, we should remember that. It's I think the problem with Arsenal is the fans are losing faith because they're doing what Arsenal have done for the last decade, right? And that's just not winning the big games they need to win. And just when there's hope on the horizon, there's promise, they just blow it. But then you look at how young this team really is. And they have to go through this, I think, to become who they're going to become. They're still a really good team, but to lose 3 straight games, I mean, and the teams they lost against, Southampton, Brighton, and Crystal Palace, again, they're decent sides, but the teams that Arsenal should be winning when they need to win games. The issue is that, once again, it's just goal scoring. You watched that game on the weekend now, but I'm sure you saw it or saw the highlights at the very least. The Gunners were great. They had so many chances. Fraser Forster in goal for Southampton was like world class. Great saves.
He's big. He's huge.
He's a big boy. I know. Yeah. He makes Craig Forrest look small, right? And he was a big goalkeeper back in the day. But yeah, I thought Arsenal should have won that game, but they didn't win the game. They haven't got that ruthless edge in front. And I think that's where they'll have to address their finances this summer, because Lacazette he's just not very good. Nketiah hasn't really taken the next step forward. Martinelli's going to be one for the future for sure, but he's not prolific at this point. So yeah, I think there's issues up front for this team, and I see the fans calling for Arteta's head again. Mike, this fan base is the most volatile fan base I think out of any in England. They're up, they're down, they're up, they're down. They're so manic. And right now they're against Arteta, which would be the wrong thing. They're building something at Arsenal right now. Behind the scenes as well, There's actually a great article on The Athletic. I'm not sure if you read it today, by David Ornstein, looking at the cultural shifts in Arsenal and what they're doing behind the scenes. And there's been a real identification of the cultural issues in that club from the top down, from the ownership to the player stuff. And they're really making all the efforts they can right now to change that up. So it's a long process. And maybe they miss out this year on the Champions League. Maybe they focus on Europa League next year. But they're building something there. And I still think they'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's been a constant battle between the club and the fans since probably the last couple of seasons of Arsene Wenger's tenure there at Arsenal. So obviously there's trouble, but they're still a very good team, like you keep mentioning. In terms of goals, obviously not having a striker is a big issue. Alexander Lacazette didn't play because he wasn't showing up to training. Arteta didn't really say why. He's like, I'm not going to tell you. And then today he's come out and said, I'm open to moving. I want to play in Europe. So, I mean, that's not going to help the team whatsoever.
It's the captain.
I know.
Right? So is Aubameyang, was the captain. What is it about captains at Arsenal? This club has had such famous, legendary captains. Xhaka. Yeah. I'll give him the high armband back right now. For a player like Lacazette to come out with these comments now, just in the meat of the season where they have to get results, where this team is struggling right now, I mean, it's just not good enough. I'd be absolutely furious if I'm Arteta. Keep them to yourselves. Come out, say you won after the season, but to not train properly, to be benched for it, and then to come out with comments like this, that is not a leader. That's really a sad indictment of him and his character, which is disappointment because he was a good player when he came aboard. High hopes for him, and then Aubameyang arrived. Like, wow, watch out! The Gunners have their strikers again, and it's just been a calamitous disaster.
Yeah, they don't have that one guy to score goals. I mean, the scoring's kind of been sharing. If you look at it here, Bukayo Saka 9 goals, Smith Rowe 9, Odegaard 6, Martinelli 5, Lacazette 4 goals, and Aubameyang left with 4 goals, and then the rest, it's kind of just spread out from there. When you don't have that, that key man up front, I mean, the sharing of the goal scoring is fantastic, but you need that key guy. I mean, Eddie Nketiah or Martinelli up front is not going to win you games, and they're not going to win you a game against Chelsea. That's for sure.
Well, it's fine. It's fine if you're Man City, right? And you want to spread.
That's a different story, yeah.
Right, because that's the next level up, and they're balancing 12 goals, 10 goals, 13 goals around, right, as opposed to 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
But I mean, Arteta came from Pep's school of football, but that's also the reason why Pep and City are going to spend and splash the cash this summer on a striker, because I think you still need that guy. As great as City is, if you put Haaland in that City squad on the weekend, it's a different story entirely. They had chances in that second half, right?
Yeah.
It's a very different story. So I think they realized last year they almost got Harry Kane, right? He realized, and they didn't get him, and he made do with what he had, which is still incredible. But yeah, it just shows. So yeah, okay, City's different to Arsenal. I get that, but their needs are very similar. Get that prolific marksman, and suddenly everything changes.
I love how every time City loses, it's all about the striker. You look how many goals they've scored. They scored 72 this year.
I know.
Just a little less than Liverpool,
It's
true. You do need that guy. And Pep obviously realized it. He needs that player. But, I mean, what he's doing without a striker. I mean, if you were to put this version of Harry Kane into that team who can drop in and almost play that false 9 that Pep likes to play, they're next to unstoppable.
Well, Kane's not even prolific now, is he, Albert? Hey,
no, he's turning into Kevin De Bruyne. It's crazy.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? He is. Absolutely. But he'll score goals. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, he's almost the perfect player, I think, for City right now, actually. Haaland might be the target. He's younger, and that's why. But right now, I mean, man, you could imagine what Pep would do with Harry Kane. Be pretty fun.
Yeah, and it's got a lot's going to determine when it comes to the striker market and the transfers. Wherever Haaland goes, that's where everything starts. I mean,
dominoes, right? Yeah.
Bayern, maybe Haaland goes there, even though Bayern's been dismissing that. It's insane. I can't.
Well, yes, it's interesting. Like this summer, I'm so pumped about this summer for the transfer window, right? Because you have Mbappe and Haaland, you got Lewandowski out of contract as well. Yeah. He might stay there, and then you got that second tier, Kane in there, and then you got the Darwin Nunez's of the world we discussed last week, right? You got the John Davids from a Canadian perspective. Man, it's going to be a lot of fun and seeing who moves where this summer.
Speaking of City, they're going to play Brighton on Wednesday, James, minus 550 favorites at home, which they should be. Brighton plus 1,600. Based on the way that they're playing, it might be worth $2 or $3 to throw on Brighton at the moment. But
they're on a streak, Albert.
This should be a City win, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
What's the draw paying?
The draw is currently paying plus 500, James.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Brighton were draw kings earlier this season, right?
Yeah.
And they're on a bit of a heater right now. Cities, like we said, they're kind of up and down, but I might go for the draw there. I hope so from a very biased perspective as a Liverpool fan.
It'll be difficult for Brighton. They're playing fantastic at the moment, but you never know, right? You never know what happens in this title race. We keep talking about it. Like you look at the run-in, and that only tells you so much. You're like, well, they should beat this team, but when the pressure is on, I mean, things just change week in and week out. Look at the teams that you mentioned that Arsenal lost to. Look what happened to Spurs. Look what happened to West Ham against Burnley. They should have, ran away with that game. And I know, West Ham coming off, some big Europa League matches, but still, they should be winning those games. But when you come to this point in the season, really anything can happen.
Yeah, and I think more this year seems more than other years. I mean,
Really, I know.
if you get the top two, I mean, they generally win, right? Forget them. But everyone else, it is so inconsistent. From third to fourth to 19th and 20th, it's so inconsistent. I think we can all pretty much agree that it's Norwich and Watford going down. Would you agree with that right now?
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 6 points now, Watford, and that's on Everton in 17th, and Everton's still got 2 games in hand on Watford. So I think they're going down. Burnley, who knows what they're doing? They're going to announce an interim manager this week.
They're going down. The death knell, James, the death knell was sacking Sean Dyche. That was the worst move they possibly could have done. They're done.
I couldn't agree with you more. Terrible timing. I don't know why they would have done it. Maybe there's something off the field, but I just can't imagine. Apparently, he was blindsided by it, did not see it coming at all. And, all that kind of bit of love we have for Burnley because of Sean Dyche and his charisma, now that's gone. I don't really care about them. They can go down for all I care.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I want to see if he can stay in the Premier League. I'd love to see him in the Premier League. But yeah, back to, the unpredictability of the Premier League. If you look at the form table over the last 3 matches, you have Brentford 9 points, Leeds 7 points, Liverpool, Brighton, Tottenham. That's the top 5 in terms of form in the Premier League at the moment. That tells you everything. You look at City, they're midway down the table with 5 points in their last 3 games.
Crazy. It's crazy how once, like, look at Brentford. Let's give them some more love. I mean,
yes.
Okay, finally now I'll agree with you. They're onto something, and that assist by Eriksen for that final goal on the weekend just plopped it over the top. I mean, what a beautiful ball that was.
Yeah.
And just what a difference he makes. And I'm sure some big clubs will be in the Eriksen hunt again this summer, but I hope he stays there because they're a mid-table team now, right? It's crazy. That's what they're fighting for, right? Well, right now they're 11th right now. They're a point back of Brighton in 10th. This is a team that some of us thought were going down, Not you, of course. You always had their back.
I'm Brentford all the way through and through. But just off the top of your head, Christian Eriksen, signing of the season?
Oh, I think so. Well, Luis Diaz is he must be up there as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? You know what? As far as the effect and the impact, yes, I think you're right. Because, Brentford were in some turmoil, and we were so surprised when he decided to join Brentford. And since he's arrived, I don't know what their record. Have they lost? They may have lost 1 game since he arrived.
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, you're saying how they're one of the top teams the last 5 or 6 games in the league than anything else. So I think from an impact standpoint, absolutely. For a long-term standpoint, I think Luis Diaz was a steal.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember Eriksen. They paid nothing for him. He came on a free. I don't think they've lost since he started. Which is,
really?
No, they have. Sorry, they lost against Leicester 2-1. That was the game.
It's incredible, though, isn't it? 1 game they lost, and Thomas Frank. I mean, talking about manager of the year. I mean, you go over those. I don't know what the odds are. We'll maybe discuss those on Friday.
How do you look at that? I mean, some people see the top 4 teams and decide based on who finishes
and
first.
I hate that.
Yeah,
I mean, top 4 teams. Who do you? Okay, Pep's good. Yeah, he is. Jurgen's good. Yep, he is. Boring. Okay, let's go down. Spurs, Conte, he's turned it around.
Yeah.
Right? But they're still fighting for 4th place. I don't think Ralph Rangnick's getting it. Arteta's not getting it. David Moyes absolutely could be in contention for it.
Oh,
right?
yes.
So David Moyes, I would say yes. I would definitely say Thomas Frank. And beyond that, maybe, Vieira's done a great job there, but they're still the 13th. I'd be more than happy to see one of Vieira, Frank, or Moyes get it, but I think it's got to be Moyes, doesn't it?
It depends. It depends how they do the voting. I mean, are they going to take the Europa League into consideration?
They should do. It should be the whole package.
If it's just the Premier League, then I'm not sure, right? It depends on based on where they finish. But if you take in the Europa League into consideration, then it's Moyes and Frank for me, the top 2.
It is out. Yeah, I think so. I mean, even if they take in just the Premier League, I mean, I know they're in 7th right now, but they're in the conversation for 4th place 2 weeks ago, and put on this long run. I think it's one of those 2 guys. And listen, if Brentford keep winning games, maybe it'll be Frank. But at this point, if I'm voting right now, which I'm not, I'm going for David Moyes. Simple as that.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I like Moyes a lot. If they take Europa League into consideration, I would go Moyes, but I think Thomas Frank. And I think there's a couple managers who deserve some credit as well, who just come in. Jesse Marsh at Leeds. No one's talking about him anymore. He's not Ted Lasso anymore. He's doing some good things for Leeds at the moment.
He is. I mean, look at their record the last since he arrived. His first couple
10
of games,
in
they're
the
a little
last
bit.
6.
Yeah, exactly. And they're safe, right? What about Eddie Howe?
Oh, that's right.
Right. I just thought about Eddie Howe. That's right, because they were very much like, a lot of people thought they're going down.
Yeah.
Very much. And since he's arrived, he's shifted the entire culture of that club. And I think the signings they brought in were really smart signings. They weren't just, all these big names being mentioned. They weren't big names necessarily, apart from Kieran Trippier, who then got hurt, right? But he's done a fantastic job. And they're 37 points. They're safe now. They're
safe,
not going down.
Yeah.
Right.
Bruno Lage, I think, should be thrown in. He's not going to win it.
Bruno Lage, 100%.
First season. Sorry?
Yeah, 100%. Bruno Lage is a great pick as well. I mean, they've been so quiet, Wolves. They don't score many goals, not much flair, but look what they are. They're still maintaining a top
We can
finish.
probably agree that one manager is not going to get it. It's probably Frank Lampard. I'm sorry, I know he just came in. If he saves Everton fans will be very happy. But when Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard both got those jobs, they're all talking about, here we are. Here's the new generation of the English manager. And I mean, it started well for Gerrard, but I think over the last 3 matches, or even maybe 6 matches, I don't even know if they have the point. I have to look at that.
Well, listen, so Lampard and Gerrard, they couldn't operate in the same midfield, right? And they can't operate in the same league now as managers. Steven
Gerrard can still play a massive part in this title race because Liverpool or City play Villa the last game of the season.
Ooh,
he can make up for the slip, which it's interesting. He still talks about that. And he still says that it haunts him, which is incredible.
It's so sad, right? Because he never got that Premier League crown. He got everything else. But that slip still really haunts him, obviously. But yeah, we haven't mentioned Steven Gerrard. I mean, he's not going to get manager of the year, but he's done a really great job there, I think.
Yeah.
And I still feel bad for Frank Lampard. I do. I think he's a good guy, and he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders, even though he says he doesn't feel it. He does. I hope Everton do find a way to stick around in the Premier League and they keep the faith with him for at least until November when he gets fired.
I think they'll be all right. I'm trying to find manager of the year odds. I can't find it anywhere. There's like an older set with like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to be favored, but that's not right.
You see, Ole Gunnar was I think the second favorite to take the Burnley job at one point. What are you thinking? It's because they can't think of anyone else. That's why.
No, exactly. We talked about him earlier in the week. Or last week, Alan Pardew. He's available. Bring him in. Warnock.
Where is he again? He told me he's in is Turkey or somewhere. He said, "Where is it?"
He has like one of those consulting roles.
Yeah,
whatever that means.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe on Friday we'll look at the manager of the year odds. We'll find them by Friday and we'll talk about them. That's a good idea because it's a good debate to have, right? And I just hope they don't give it to the easy choices, Klopp or Pep. I really do. If Klopp wins, then they might find a way to give it to him. I don't know what Pep can do to get it again.
Yeah, it'd be hard not to give it to Klopp if Liverpool won the Premier League.
Yeah. Well, spent a lot of money though, didn't they?
Yes, they did. The recruitment's been fantastic. Yeah. That's one of the main things I think no one's really talking about as much. I mean, the players that they bring in compared to the players that City bring in. Yes, City can really splash the cash. Liverpool can too, but they have to be a lot more strategic. And what I'm noticing with them is, when they bring in players, it's not just for now. It's for the future as well. And it's not just, in a couple of years, this guy will be okay. It's like, no, this guy is good now. When one of our key guys moves on, we can just place him in that spot. And Luis Diaz is that guy.
Jota and Diaz, two great signings. They're clearly brought in with the possibility of Salah leaving at some point, and he's approaching his 30. I think he's not 30 already. He will be very, very soon. And Mane, who knows? So it's always one eye in the future. And that's what Sir Alex Ferguson did so well. He was a genius at this. He'd always spot the potential weakness a year before it actually happened. So he saw some really great players leave United. Like, wow, why would they sell Nemanja Vidic? Why would they sell Ruud van Nistelrooy, Roy Keane? Why? Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's why. And they bring players in to replace them, and it turned out pretty well, right? He's got to look ahead of the curve, right?
Got to keep the squad nice and fresh. No frauds on this podcast. But that's it for Fast Money Football. James Sharman, please follow him at James Sharman on Twitter. You can follow me at TheRealBirdV. And always, please head over to parlay.tv for more parlay content. Take care, guys.